Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another Joy Connection. Today, I am so excited to be having this conversation with my special guest, Elizabeth Correia. And, I don't know if any of you have met her or seen her, but, she has been on CP24 and on Globe and Mail and on CTV News because she's got a lot to share with a lot of people. Elizabeth is a transformational speaker and an author. Maybe you've read her book. And she's a woman who's passionate about helping women in particular, but anybody that listens to her message can learn from her, walk in a life of joy and fulfillment, be able to transform the good, bad, ugly into something powerful, be able to live their dreams and their life purpose, be able to walk out of things and into new things. And so I am just so excited because, as all of you know, this is Joy Connection. And my mantra is that the joy of the Lord is your strength. And you know what? Just because we walk in joy doesn't mean that we haven't walked out of something that has been uncomfortable, difficult, challenging. Well, Elizabeth has turned her some things into something good. And so today we get to welcome Elizabeth to share with us, how do you live out a life of joy? And how do you help others do that? We want to know those secrets because I know I'm not going to take every secret from you. But
I don't mind.
we just want you to share with us your own story. What is that story? How is it that you've been able to now live a new story or a new chapter in that story? And what does joy do? How does joy play a role? So welcome, Elizabeth, today. We are so glad to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Shireen. Wow, that was amazing. That was a lot of really good things to say about me.
That's you, right? That is you. I can't say what I don't know about you. And I know that you have had many platforms and opportunities. And that's just God allowing you to use your
Yeah.
story to show others how they can have a story of strength and power and joy. And so we've got to tell it.
Yes, yes. And I love the fact that you mentioned that's just God, because I mean, he does get all the glory. Like without him, people say, you often hear people say, oh, I don't know where I'd be without God. Oh, I know where I'd be without God.
Right?
Oh, I know where he found me or where I found him and where I was. So I know where I'd be. So there's a lot of questions and I don't know where to start, but I think I'm going to start by, contributing to, how I found joy and how I was able to come into the joy of the Lord. And I'll start by saying that joy really started for me when I started to forgive.
Yeah.
That was definitely the foundation of the joy that I live in today.
Amen.
I think, I had kind of tried everything else and I was, super active in ministry and, church. I was a church goer and, I wouldn't even say so much a church doer. That came years later, after my forgiveness, but I just couldn't seem to let go and forgive. And although I was reading the word and I could quote scriptures like crazy, and I was probably active in church, at least two times a week, heavily involved in ministry, women's ministry, youth ministry, all that. But it really started, my joy and feeling that joy really, waking up with joy, no matter what was happening, really started happening when I was able to truly forgive. And that happened after surviving emergency brain surgery. So really, that was just like coming into that kind of forgiveness, real, true forgiveness where you don't talk, you don't say things like, oh, I'll forgive you, but I'll never forget. Like there's no such thing.
Yeah.
That's like saying, I fell and bumped my arm and I'll never forget that I bumped my arm. Obviously, you're never going to forget something, right? But you don't live in that space. So I don't even talk like that,
You're making a different choice, right? You're choosing not to remember,
Yeah.
right?
I'm choosing not to think about it. Just like I chose not to think of when my finger was broken. Like I don't You know what I mean? Um, and that happened when I survived emergency brain surgery. When I woke up from that, that was when I realized that I almost died and I hadn't even started living yet.
Oh,
And that was only 10 years ago. So, and I'd been doing this work, speaking and youth empowerment and women's empowerment, but I was leading while bleeding, right?
and that's
So,
not helpful to anybody, is it? Right. And
no.
it's amazing how God uses these crisis moments to bring us back
Mhm.
to the truth that we know, but we haven't necessarily been living. That the scripture tells us that we have to forgive. We're coming on, Easter and all of these things, and we're recognizing again that the Lord, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And, he practiced what it is that he's told us. The Father tells us if we don't forgive, he can't forgive us. And channels are blocked that way. And so we're
Oh,
blocking ourselves. So freedom is truly in forgiveness, and forgiveness is truly a key to unlocking
mhm.
joy in our experience.
Oh,
I
it,
love
it,
it.
it is. Personally, I think it is the key.
Yeah.
And I can only say that because I've been through it all and I've seen it all and I've tried it all. And as much as I was going to church and reading the word and involved in ministry, it wasn't that joy that the word speaks about, that joy that is our birthright.
Yes.
I
Your
wasn't
birthright.
feeling that.
Yeah.
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 I mean, you think of us when we were babies and, we're laughing, we're happy, we're even toddlers. Even if something happens, they in that moment, but then they're happy again and they're smiling again. So it is our birthright. We were born to live with the joy of the Lord. Like that is how he created us. So
Yes.
for me, something just, I'm like, what is it? Like I go to church and I get this spike of energy and I feel good and the praise and worship and I'm all in it. And then I go home and I'm angry again and and I'm lashing out again and I'm, angry at my former husband and angry at my father, who started sexually abusing me as far back as I can remember as a little girl and, all this. And I'm just like, and then I would have moments where I'm like, I don't want to forgive him. I
Yes.
don't want to forgive my former husband. I want him to suffer. I know I'm not going to pray for him. Like, you know, pray for him. I was like, I'm not going to pray for him. Like, he did me wrong. He hurt me. So, I woke up from brain surgery and it just, there was a complete shift
Yeah.
in, it was almost like God came and surgically changed things in my brain and my soul and my heart. Like it was just amazing what happened. And I think it was because I wanted it bad enough.
you
I
know
wanted it bad enough.
you say, like, there are two things that you said that I think
Mhm.
are really key and important, and one of those is just that, that whole idea of not wanting to do something, right? I didn't want to forgive him, I didn't want to, and we do that to ourselves,
Yes.
and yet at the same time, the result that we still want that badly, because you just said,
Yes.
I wanted it bad. So you wanted joy and you wanted freedom. You just didn't make the connection that it was something you were holding on to that wasn't allowing that. And it's amazing. I always say it's amazing how God uses real physical examples to teach us some real spiritual truths. You say that it
Mhm.
happened for you. You went through brain surgery. And
Mhm.
God did a spiritual brain surgery when you least expected it, right? You woke up to, this is a choice I need to make. God
Yes.
is so gracious and he's so kind. And, and
Yeah.
and and sometimes we wonder, I always say to people, don't ask why as in it should be somebody else, like the why me as in,
Why not me?
but right, but the why as in, what do you want me to do with this? What do you want? And God made that very clear when you woke up. Like, I'm listening to your story, abuse as a child, the marital conflict that you had, physical sickness like brain surgery. Oh my goodness. We have a lot in common. I mean, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a sexual abuse survivor, right? Like, you
Wow, look
and
at
me have a lot in
that.
common. And God uses that. I always say that it's the story of God's faithfulness that's being written into our
Mhm.
chapters of the lives that we live. Because you said, I almost died before I started living, right? So when we are able to look at the grace of God and how it is he's weaving his faithfulness, we're able to say, okay, yes, Lord, you know what? I'm
Yeah.
waking up to wanting to forgive because, yeah, those things are in my past and those things are in my story, but they don't have to define me and they don't
Mhm.
have to keep me bound because I want the joy. It's our birthright. It's our
Yes.
birthright. I just love what it is that you've said. Sorry,
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah. No, it is our birthright. And I think, you know, realizing that it was just that piece for me, that forgiveness piece for me that was keeping me, you know, angry and resentful and making toxic choices. I mean, it affected every area of my life. It affected how I was treating myself. It
Yes.
affected, the choices I was making. It affected um habits. And I mean, I'm not speaking about habits like smoking or drinking or drugs, and
Mhm.
never got into that. But it was just in other areas of my life that it was affecting, especially with in regards to relationships and
Yeah.
um and business and work. And it just felt so inauthentic for me to stand on a stage and talk about forgiveness and then go home and lash at my former partner because of whatever was happening at the time.
Yes.
um and so I woke up desire to just give my all to, like, making a difference in the world and serving and using my story to contribute to the healing of the world. Like, I knew when I woke up from that surgery that there was a really big purpose for my life, because
And
things were supposed to go according to the doctors, like, so different. I had a 50% chance of surviving. 75% chance of either, being blind or losing my speech, or like I had to sign waivers. Like, it was a serious surgery. It was like a 5-hour
any
surgery. And
brain surgery seems
yes,
serious.
yeah, it's your brain and your heart. Those are two, really serious surgeries. And so I woke up and everything was right, and I could see and I could hear and I could remember, and I had my memory, and I could move my
Amen.
body and I could walk, and I was just like this. It was so intense that I cried every single day. I think it was for 17 days,
Yeah, well,
like 10 times a day. And it was not a cry of sadness. The joy that came up on me was unexplainable. Like, to this day I cannot explain. And I didn't sleep for 10 days.
uh,
I did not sleep. The doctors were worried. The nurses were like, you really should take some sleeping medication. I'm like, I don't want medication. I refused it all. And my family can attest to this. My sister was there every day. Like, I did not sleep for 10 days. Like,
wow.
I was so overwhelmed
It
with
was that
joy.
well, right? That
Oh,
well of joy that the Lord gives that nobody can take away. And he talks
no,
about a well springing up in us. And those
that's what
were
it
tears of
was.
joy, but it was the water of the well filling
Yes.
you to overflowing. Like you said, I woke up to what wasn't supposed to have been. And yet, that's according to man. But God
But God,
had a different
yes.
story of what
Oh,
was supposed to have
oh,
been.
yes.
So you
Yeah.
woke up being a walking, living miracle.
Yes.
I guess, I mean, how can you not cry to that?
Yeah.
You're just like,
Yeah.
God, you chose me to be a miracle. You chose me to walk a miracle. You chose me to be a living miracle. Uh,
Yeah, and it's funny that you say miracle, because everyone on that floor in the hospital, the nurses, the doctors, even some of the patients that were there, my nickname became a little miracle. A
oh,
little miracle. I was the youngest by far out of everybody on that floor. So a
yeah.
lot of older people with brain tumors, brain surgery. So I was like the youngest. And that's what they kept saying. Even the nurses, she's like unreal. And it's funny because prior to going under, when they put me under, um I started like praying. But when I was praying, I wasn't doing it in my head. I was kind of like whispering.
Yeah.
And my neurosurgeon, my brain surgeon, can hear me. He heard me. So he said, it's okay, you know, you're gonna be fine, it's okay. And just before he had said that, I literally heard like this voice, and I it was unbelievable. You know, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Those
That's God.
exact words.
That's right.
And I did this breath like, and so when he said that, I said, I just looked at him and I said, I know,
Yeah.
I know
It's
I will.
almost
And
the
I
same.
just,
God spoke to me already, but thank
yeah,
you for confirming it.
yeah. And I knew that had I not gone under, I didn't go under in fear.
Yes. You went under in faith.
Yes. I
Yes.
think I believe with all my heart that the results would have been different. I
Amen.
went under knowing I was going to be okay. And even my son said to me, like, he knew that
Yeah.
I was going to be okay. And
Amen.
I did. I knew those last, it was very scary and I was very nervous.
It's brain
Like,
surgery.
yeah, like I was terrified.
Yes.
But those last few seconds, I would say like 10, 15 seconds, there was, I can't even explain it. Yeah.
Amen. So what is it that you would say now is the evidence of you living out your joy? Like you chose forgiveness and then you woke up to this miracle and knew, okay, God had a purpose for your life. So, like that doesn't mean that since your brain surgery, life has been perfect. Of
No,
course,
it never is.
right? So what is it? What are your key components of how you live out in joy through the other moments of, what are you
Yeah.
doing to be walking in your joy?
Well, I think the key evidence of the joy that I wake up with and live with is my life behind closed doors.
Yeah.
So, like, my son is here, right? Like it's who I am behind closed doors. Like my home is a happy home that is filled with laughter and love. Like there's no drama here. There's no arguing here. There's no fights. There's no disagreements. It's just pure love. And
Yes.
so behind, it's when no one else sees you, God sees you.
Yes.
And when you can say publicly and with your kids there with or behind or, I live a joy-filled life. My home is filled with joy every day. Like there's no mood swings here. There's no, and I'm not saying that in a way to say, oh, I got it all together. Listen, I worked hard for this right now.
Yes.
And a lot of people wouldn't have survived in my shoes if they had went through the 30 plus years of hell that I went through. Like I was alive, but I was dead,
Yeah. Yeah.
for so many years. And I worked really hard to get to this place of where I'm at right now. Prior to this joy filled life, I was happy. And I'm going to tell you the difference between how I put it, happy and joy. And God showed me this. The Holy Spirit put this in me to speak about. Happiness is temporary
Yeah.
and it's external.
That's right.
Joy,
Dependent on situations.
yes, right. It depends on what's your environment, right? Joy is internal
That's right.
and eternal.
That's
So
right.
no matter what happens when these things like life happens, whether it's relationships, work related, business related, right? Because I have joy and not happiness,
Yes.
it doesn't stir me.
Yes.
It doesn't pull me back. It doesn't bring me down. I get back up. As a matter of fact, I've come to a point where because I've realized every time I take a knockdown, I use it as fuel because the joy in me is like, oh, no, I'm not staying down here. I'm going to use this and I'm going to be even better and I'm going to do better, right? So I've learned to use my joy to fuel my put downs or my letdowns or those unfortunate circumstances or things that come up. I get in there with joy and I'm like, oh no, I can fix this. I'm gonna turn this around and do something. So I think that in itself is evident of the joy that I live with, and I don't, I'm not this joyful person every once in a while. I wake up like this.
Right.
I wake up like this.
Because
Like,
the joy of the Lord, it's in you. It's that
that's
well.
why. That's why.
Right. You're gonna have days that are harder than other days, and you're gonna have grief because life happens. You're gonna have you said something in the very beginning of being a child and it being, a toddler who falls and gets back up and it's our birthright. So what you're actually saying to us is that the joy that you have allows you to have your bounce back ability,
Yeah.
allows you to go, you know what? Yeah, I got hit hard today. I got hit hard today. Or yeah, that hurt. Or oh, here's a situation I didn't expect to have. Or Lord, you know what? You've allowed me to go through cancer and I have to do chemo and radiation, brain surgery, whatever. I don't know how I'm going to get to the other side, but I'm going to get to the other side
Yeah.
because you're with me and I'm relying on you. So it's that, it's
Yes.
the bounce back. It's the bounce back.
Yeah.
It's the bounce
Like a
back.
child,
Yeah, like the
just
child.
like a child. A child doesn't even know how he or she does it.
Yeah,
They just don't even think about it.
do
It's
it.
like they fall, they're back up. Like they don't think about it. So it's like I have that childlike mentality where it's like I'll fall, but I'm back up. Like I'm
Back
not
up.
staying down there because I know what it feels like to stay there. And
Yeah,
I know how crippling it can be. And I know what it did for my life. And I've been there and I don't want to go
on
back there
it.
ever. It's like I don't want to stay down. I will not stay down. So,
Yes.
I think being truly, Christ-like is to live with that joy. Like I think it's almost like an insult to him if I don't.
Right. Right. After all he's done and after all he's given us and the tools that he's given us, as well
Yeah.
as you said, joy is internal and eternal. He doesn't take it away. So, yeah, it could
We
truly
get,
be an insult. Yeah.
yeah.
And we don't want to do that. We love God and we
Mhm.
don't want to insult him. So, oh my gosh, I wish I could talk to you forever. And we're going to have you again. But I just
Yeah.
love what it is that you've brought to us this morning. One, the key of forgiveness, freeing that space for joy.
Key.
Two, the whole idea that joy is internal and eternal because God
Mhm.
gives it and doesn't take it away.
Mhm.
Three, it's about bounce back. It's about
Yes.
bounce back ability,
Mhm.
and then everything else that you've said. But those are just kind of three summarizations.
Yeah, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
I should create a keynote just talking about those two things.
Well, no, you have a whole lot. And before we go, I'd love you to just tell people about your book, about where they can find you on IG, about, because
Yes.
you do talking segments and courses and different things that
Yeah.
people can actually say, you know what, I want to bring Elizabeth, or I want to spend some more time with Elizabeth. So tell us about that before we say goodbye.
Yeah, so I do have a memoir, a book. Here's my son.
Yes, hello.
He said hi. I do have my memoir, If You
There
Played
it
in
is.
My Playground.
Yeah.
And you can get that on my site, which is elizabethcorreia.com. CORREIA.com. You can get either the soft version, the hard version, or the Kindle version is on Amazon. That's also on my website on the book tab. And we're uploading, I believe it'll be uploaded today, the ebook version as well. So there's a difference between the Kindle and ebook.
Yeah.
And then I haven't even announced this yet, but by the time this goes public, it'll be announced. I actually am launching an app.
Oh, great.
Yes, I'm launching an app which will have, actually, it's funny that we said forgiveness. The launch product with the app is called the Forgiveness Formula. It's a 14-day forgiveness challenge. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's guided, it's audio. So it's going to be really excited about that. And we're going to have everything from 15-minute quick workout sections. So it'll be like a 15-minute ab challenge. Audio, inspirational audio and video, affirmations. Like I'm really excited about it because I've been wanting to do this for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Elizabeth, it's been wonderful, a wonderful opportunity to be able to chat with you. You have quite the story, and you can read more about it in her book. You can connect with her on Instagram. You can make sure that you are looking for that app, because if you need to walk through some forgiveness, I know that I am big on forgiveness, and I've done a forgiveness journey helping. I don't know if you know Dr. Joan. She's one of my sponsors on the show.
Yes, yes, I do.
She's done the whole forgiveness journey. I posted that. And so here's another one for our listeners.
Wow.
14 days. This will be great. Forgiveness is key, and we want you walking in joy. So thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining us on Joy Connection. Thank you, listeners.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to seeing you again next week, but this has been a fabulous segment. And you know what? We're going to have Elizabeth on again because she's got a whole lot more to share, and we're going to have to I'll give her some more time. But thanks for joining us on Joy Connection today, and we'll see you back here next week. God bless you.